1933's The Invisible Man. We just finished watching it, and now we're going to go ahead and do the fun part, get into the good, the bad, the ugly, and the iconic with none other than DJ. So, DJ, what's a good thing about this film, you think?
It's good. Like, I know that's what I mean is, like, the film is good. We just watched 3 films that are okay, suffer from a lot of issues, cuts thing. This one is just good. It's the first one in the series of 4 that I'm going to have trouble actually finding a lot of issues with. It's just a good film.
That's fair. I actually absolutely agree with you. This film is actually just a good film. Like, I've only seen 5 of the Universal Monster pictures, and we've seen 4 that I've already seen. The only one left that I have seen so far is the next one we're going to do next week. And of the ones that I saw, this was my favorite. It's just it's a good film. It's a fun film. They do a lot of really great stuff in it, and I'll probably get more into it with the iconic, but
it's like they watched our reviews of the other ones and then took cues and then fixed it. I know
confirmed time travel exists, and that's why Universal is after us.
Honestly, that would make a lot more sense why they're trying to break our channel. Okay, no, look, a lot of the complaints that we had in the first 3, this one really takes those to heart. I imagine there were people at the time that had similar issue with, like, hey, these things, it looks like they really took those things to heart and really worked out a lot of those issues.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one thing about these Universal films as we're going through them. This really is, if you think about it, it's only a gap of like 3 years. 3 years have passed so far. Well, 2 years. 2 years have passed. 1931, they had 2 movies. 1932, they had The Mummy. This is 1933. They've been making these films for 2 years, and each and every film, as it's progressing, fixes an issue that we had with the one that's previous. To where this one isn't a perfect film by any means, but it is the best one so far.
And it learned a lot from what they've done in the previous ones. Yes.
Yeah. So, just that's my good too. It's just a good film. It's enjoyable. If anybody's going to watch these films, I highly recommend this one for sure. I've enjoyed all of them so far, but this one is the best.
Yeah.
So let's get into the bad then.
For me, the only really part that was a little bad is actually just a little bit of a roughness, a couple of cuts here and there, and there are a couple of scenes when they're doing some exposition that I think it gets a little too heavy. So there's the one scene that actually got to me a little bit was the one where his mentor and his coworker were like going through his stuff, and they're doing some really good exposition where they're searching through stuff. Mm-hmm. And it gets to this moment where you're actually now understanding their plot, and then it just keeps going and keeps going, and they keep explaining and keep talking about stuff. I'm like, okay, I've got the gist of it now. Mm-hmm. You actually don't really need to go any further.
And they kind of retread a couple of things.
And then there's a couple moments later in the film where they retread it again and again. It was a little heavy-handed and kind of unnecessary, I think, but it only stood out so strong because so much of the rest of the movie was so strong that it just grinded a little bit. But honestly, it's just a small gripe. It's not really anything major.
Okay. For me, the bad thing is the innkeeper's wife.
Okay.
I think that she was probably just the worst character in the film. She was a little too obnoxious. She was a little too loud with her screams, and sometimes when she was
a little too eccentric. There were times where it worked.
Yeah.
If she acted like that only when the Invisible Man thing happened, it makes sense. But she did it when he like bumped her with the door. Like she was extremely reactive.
Well, and not only that, when she got bumped with the door, if you notice, there's like a 1 or 2 second pause. Literally, she drops the thing, goes like, ah! Like just flips out.
She's very loud and very intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I could get. You know what? You're right. That the beginning of the movie got a little rough. It got really good when she wasn't in it as much.
Yep.
She's just a little overly eccentric, I think.
Yeah, they leaned into her being kind of eccentric and kooky, but it works later in the film after she's like experienced the traumatic.
That makes sense. When she screams after the trauma, it's when she screams at every little thing at the beginning.
Yeah,
screams at her husband's face.
Yeah, like literally yells at her, like screeches at her husband.
Yeah.
It is one of those things. Like I said, it's just bad. It's not like an ugly thing. I have a different thing for ugly, but because ugly is more just like restrictions of the time. Bad's just the thing that is kind of bad about the film. So I just say that the old woman in the beginning especially was a little annoying.
Nope, I can get behind that one.
Okay, how about ugly? What do you have for ugly?
The only thing I could think of for the ugly is literally the exact same thing with the other ones, is one cut disease. You know, it does still suffer from it, but not nearly. They did a lot better job of using their cuts really efficiently. But it does still suffer a little bit from one cut disease, where you can one take disease, I guess I would say, is where you can tell there's a few scenes that they took a take they probably didn't want because they had to, but overall it actually gets past it in a way that some of the other films couldn't quite get through it.
Yeah. No, I agree. That is just an issue of the times. It's something that, you know, you've hit on pretty much every film. That's kind of like
every film suffers
ugly.
from it, and this one actually I think even more so because it's so well put together.
Yeah.
That the only thing you could really do to fix it is one cut. It's like some of your problems with the lady screaming and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are probably taken because they're like, okay, she's a little much, but we can't film it again. And is it really bad enough to be worth it?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, the audio and everything and stuff works out. And
exactly.
And the other thing is that there's only so much that you can do to fix a side character.
Correct.
Like,
or how much it's even worth it. Like, she's only in the first, like, 15 minutes of the film. Yeah. She's not really and when she does show up later, she's actually, her eccentricness works for the plot rather than against it. It's only in that first few minutes it's rough. So is it worth recutting the whole thing just for that one thing?
Yeah, no. Like a secondary actor, it's not worth
exactly.
Film. It's not worth the film. Okay, so for my ugly, kind of like a two-sided coin between the ugly and the iconic. Obviously, we're going to do my typical iconic, but I figure I'll have a second iconic. But the ugly side of the coin in the audio effects. The audio effects aren't very good in this film. And what I mean by that is it sounds sometimes like the Invisible Man is behind us.
Oh.
And not in the scene.
No.
So that's just like an issue of the time. That's just audio blending and stuff like that. This is 1933.
No, that's why, because they're recording his audio separately and then dubbing it into the film. So
yeah, and then the radio. Like, we're so used to nowadays when a radio does its thing, the voice sounds like it's coming off of the speaker. It's got the grain, it's got the pops, it's got the different things going on. Whereas in this one, it is 100% crystal clear, perfect. Just 100%.
I forgot that bad. There's just one real quick thing here is that radio thing was a little too like where the radio was like small town in the middle of nowhere has a disease. That was a bit heavy-handed, but sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, like that. Yeah, that's kind of bad.
No, that was very heavy-handed. It just goes along with like the it's that the audio kind of feels weird and everything, but then also the context is wrong. That was a little pulled me out of it just for a second there. Yeah,
yeah, but that's just kind of like the fact that that's an ugly of this film is it literally is just a thing at the time. If you remade it today, it would sound like it's coming out of the radio. It's not coming from everybody's hearing.
And they could do like green screen effects where the actor's actually speaking in the role too, a little more efficiently than they did. But yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. So that's just kind of my ugly. So the reverse, we'll go into it a little bit more with the iconic. But what do you think is iconic about this film?
For me, the way that they did the effects for the Invisible Man.
That was my second one that I was getting into.
That one is so impressive. Like, it's so believable when they every time they undo the bandage and you're seeing and there's moments where you can see a little bit of an outline of like a head.
Yeah.
But it actually doesn't take away from the film because is invisible. He even mentions that from certain angles or certain things can make me visible.
Yeah.
They actually explain the effects in a way that the effects they're using to make them is actually part of the character.
Right.
And there's these moments where like his chin lays down and you actually see it cover up his shirt. Is that because the effects aren't bad, or is that how the Invisible Man actually works? They don't explain it enough in a way that you buy it. You buy it fully.
Yeah.
I was like so impressed with just the level of trickery that they pulled and making it look so believable. It reminds me a lot of like the Mummy. We talked about the Mummy in the very beginning when he's in there, and it just looks like an actual mummy in there. It's just the effects up to the moon in level. It was so impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, that's the opposite side of the coin. The audio effects weren't great. The visual effects are iconic. They are fantastic.
Absolutely. When he's smoking the cigarette.
Oh, he just throws it. Like it looks like it follows.
He doesn't. They don't go the easy way out and just have him not do anything.
Right.
They constantly have him doing stuff. They use visual effects so effectively. He's constantly moving furniture, moving chairs, moving books, smoking a cigarette, wrapping himself up, moving around.
Unwrapping himself.
They go out of their way to show him doing actions to use this effect. They don't cheap out by just not showing him as much as possible. They constantly show him on screen as the Invisible Man. It is so amazingly well done.
And it's not just a big effect. They took it down to little effects. The very first scene that we see him, if you actually look at the split second, you see that it is invisible. He is invisible. You just see the back end of the bandages. Like they went that far. It's the back end of the bandages. When it's the eyes, like if the eyes are just wide enough, you can see like poking through to bandage.
It's just so impressive.
Yeah.
And like I said, they go out of their way to do it as many times as they can, rather than like, I was expecting this film to be cheaty, where they would just have him talk a lot and not do anything. But as he does so much, I gotta stop talking about it. I keep going forever. It was just so good.
It is the most impressive part of the film. For 1933, 90 years ago. It has better effects in it than some modern films.
I agree.
Modern films,
if it had been in color, I wonder if it may have showed harder. But the black and white, I think, does it good justice. But still, the contrasting, even of those, it's so impressive.
Yeah.
What about you?
Okay, so that was the two-sided coin, iconic. That was my second iconic thing that I wanted to touch on. If you didn't touch on it, I was going to say something. Like I said, two-sided coin. The audio effects are
bad,
ugly.
but the visual
effects are the iconic. Obviously, I'm going to get into the obviously the Invisible Man himself is iconic. Like he is probably
those were the two same, but his dialogue, go for it. I want to hear your opinion on this.
So he is the most vocal of the villains so far.
That is true.
He's the most vocal of
Dracula speaks
the
in
monsters.
short points.
Frankenstein
doesn't speak at all, and the Mummy basically only speaks when absolutely necessary.
Yeah, or to exposition the plot or explain what's going on. This character, his dialogue is so effective.
It was amazing.
Like every time he speaks, it's important, and not only that, the way that he delivers his lines.
It reminds me of Renfield's acting in Dracula, where he does a really good job when he's convincing us of his psychosis, and he's making these dialogues and with like in the asylum and stuff like that with Dracula. It reminded me a lot of that, but stronger, smoother, and way more impactful.
Yeah, and not only that, it's the range. You don't ever see his face. That's the other thing too. Is the Invisible Man? You never see his face.
He talks, but
the way that he talks,
I could read his body language through his voice.
Exactly. You could tell everything that's going on in his head. You could tell when he's having like a psychotic moment, when he's starting to lose and slip from his sanity a little bit, when he's calm and collected, when he's starting to get maniacal and things like that. And he's genuinely menacing.
Yes.
Like one of the scenes that I think
this is the first one that actually kind of got a chills of like an actual, like this guy's an actual threat.
Yeah.
Dracula was a threat, but his motives were confusing. Frankenstein wasn't really a threat. He was a self-defense. The Mummy was just doing what he wanted. This guy is like, I'm going to hurt people and I'm going to enjoy it.
Exactly. I'm going to go out of my way. I'm going to do it. I'm going to kill a few people. I'm going to get people afraid of me.
People.
They'll think that I'm in the room with them when I'm not. I'll be in the room with them when they don't believe I am. I'll hurt them at any point, any opportunity. I can do whatever I want. Everyone fears me. The whole world will fear me, and I'll control the world and rule the world. I just need a visible stooge so that people know to fear me.
Yep.
Like, his plan is maniacal. It's just the range. The range is just amazing.
It's so good.
Probably the most iconic thing is when, I forgot his name. His henchman, the guy that he takes captive.
I literally knew it till he asked me. Now I forgot. But
yes, yeah. So when he calls on the phone, you're genuinely afraid because he's like jiggling the doorknob. He doesn't trust him. The Invisible Man doesn't trust him at all. He's like, "Why are you locking the door? Why are you doing this? Why would you do this?" And
the tension when he's going to call, I felt it like hard.
Yeah.
Like, oh crap, where is this guy? He was sleeping. He showed him sleeping, but is he still sleeping? Because you can't see him. You don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, and the thing is that when he pulls him outside the room and he starts talking to him and stuff like that, there's a coldness to his speaking. The Invisible Man, there's a coldness to it. Where he's like, well, what are you doing in there? Oh, I had to get away and blah, blah, blah. I had to lock the door. I don't know. You wouldn't trust me if I was invisible, would you? I suppose I wouldn't. But you wouldn't betray me. We're friends. We're pals.
That's actually
We're bosom buddies.
That dichotomy between him having absolute, like, he really actually trusted him, but didn't trust him at the same time. Like, he kept threatening him that if he betrays him, he's going to kill him, but he promised him he wouldn't if he didn't. But he doesn't know he's being honest because the dude's coming off crazy. He's like talking about murdering people. I killed a policeman. Ha ha ha. Isn't that funny? And he's like, dude, you're insane. And he's like, it makes sense. He's rational. This guy's crazy. He may not listen to his word. I need to protect myself. But you get this sense that the Invisible Man really wouldn't have hurt him had he not betrayed him.
Yeah.
Like, you want to believe him, but his craziness is so wild that it's hard to trust. And so it's just, it's so good. And those two big monologues where he talks about about what he wants to do. First it was just a experiment, but now I realize I can take over the world. And then with his girlfriend or wife or whoever.
Yeah, his love interest.
Yes,
they're not official, I don't think, but they have an interest.
But he goes to her like, he all saying like, I wanted to be with you. I'm going to cure myself, I promise. But I could rule the world. But I actually want to be with you. But I could destroy everything and cause chaos. But I could be with you.
I'll be with you. And then he starts slipping. He starts getting more insane. And he gets more monologuing. He gets more emotional. He gets louder. And if you notice his shifts, the way that he talks shifts naturally to where you almost get lost in it. Then you don't realize what he's saying, kind of thing. But he literally goes from being calm, cool, collected. Of course, I forgot. How could I possibly forget? I love you. You're beautiful. I would do anything for you. I'll cure myself. I'll work on this cure so I can be better. And then he starts kind of drifting a little bit. She pulls him back. And then if you notice, he changes it. He goes from like, we can be together. My focus is to provide for you. That's the first step. I want to provide for you. I was just a lowly chemist. I did all these different things. And then he drifts a little bit. She pulls him back. And then he changes it again. And he's like, but I could be powerful for you. I could be powerful for you. I can get whatever you want. I'll sell this to the world. Millions of dollars. And then she pulls him back.
He talks about, I'll sell it to the highest bidder. And the country that wins it will rule the world with invisible armies. I was like, dear God.
But then she pulls him back again. And if you notice, he changes again. After she pulls him back, he drifts again. But he goes, I will be powerful.
In 1933, like, we're on the edge of war and things going on in the world. And it's just, this idea is just so, not just iconic for the time, but just the impressiveness of the time period it took place and how foreshadowy and push this must, it's just really good.
Yeah, it's just really good. But that whole monologue when he just like goes insane. And the other thing is like what he says, kind of the progression is logical enough that we're following it and we're like, okay, yeah, I can see where he's getting that from. I can see where he's getting that from. And then if you pay attention, he literally says, the moon will fear me.
Yep.
And then that's when you know, oh, he is insane.
Yep.
He's not sane at all. There's not a single sane thought in his head. He is off the rocker. He's just
flipping all over the place. And then the unceremoniously way in which he dies is so poetic because his hubris and his thought of power, and he just gets ended so easily by just a measly peasant finds him because his hubris is so high.
Yeah, he doesn't even think to bother to take care of hiding himself. And then he just walks in the snow. Like, think about it. He walks towards them in the snow. And then he is felled by 2 shots.
Yep.
It's
just perfect. Okay, so then from there, how would we fix this film and rewrite it for modern audiences? I only want to bring it up because for fixing it, the only thing I would do is calm down the heavy-handedness of the freakouts in the beginning, which is mostly due to a issue of probably one cut. They probably also found it problematic, but didn't know what to do. And a little gentler on the exposition, and it's honestly just a perfect film.
It is just a very good film. There's very few things that you can do to be any better. Like, if you're releasing it for modern audiences and stuff like that. So for like the time period, yeah, I think it's the best you're going to get for the time period.
I honestly think it's really good for now.
Yeah, like even now, like it's a good film. It is interesting.
It even has some of the action that modern audience, like when he derails the train and he chokes people to death, and he's like, there's a lot of action in it. That's something some of the earlier films suffered from a little bit. Is there's not a lot of action, so modern audiences may not enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
But honestly, this one has quite a bit. I think it's just perfect the way that
it really is. And here's the thing.
I don't really. I wouldn't change anything to this. I'd just like re-release it as is and just smooth it a little bit.
Yeah, smooth it a little bit. Maybe some modern effects and things like that.
Fix the sound.
Fix the sound. Fix some of the visuals.
Those things that we talked about. The uglies.
Yeah, just fix the uglies.
You just pop the uglies out, but leave the film exactly as it is. Don't change freaking anything. Just fix with the dialogue issues. Some of the like the radio stuff.
Yeah.
Clean that up a little bit, and this movie is just... You would have to change some of the dialogue, too. Like, we made some fun of the dialogue because at the time, it was... when he's like, we're bosom buddies or whatever, and we're like, I know that's different, but now it feels weird. You'd have to change some of the dialogue a little bit for the time.
Yeah, like, you're going to have to update some of the dialogue and things like that. The thing is, too, that, like every one of the Universal movies, you have to keep it in the same time period. Like, just being honest, like, comparing it to 2019 Invisible Man?
Somewhere around that time.
2018 or 2019. I have it.
It came out soon after the 2017 Mummy. It was supposed to be in that monster universe, but they rewrote it.
They rewrote it. So I think it was 2018 or 2019. I saw it in the theaters. Compared to this one, the 1933 one is actually way better. The new Invisible Man was pretty interesting and stuff like that. Sure, it's like update and stuff like that, but they had to explain different things and they did different effects and things like that to try to explain it being in this world.
When you do it in that same time period, it actually, people think it's limiting, but what it actually does is opens up your ability to explain it easier, because in modern times you're going to want to like come up with some contrived science mojo, right?
That's what they did.
If you do it in the 1930s, you're just like, he's a chemist, who cares? Like,
early 1900s and stuff like that. He's doing strange experiments and things like that. He's experimenting on himself. You can believe it. 1900s, he's experimenting on himself. It's driving him insane. He actually found a way to mix certain chemicals and turn him invisible. Sure, why not? Right. It's a fantasy world anyway. Like, we believe Frankenstein in the time period that we set it in, and we believe Dracula in the time that it's set in. It doesn't work in modern times as well. It's more terrifying also because, again, limited technology and limited knowledge and things like that. It works really well. The thing about the updated one that they did, the 2021...
20-something.
Yeah, 20-something. Have you seen it?
No.
Okay. I'll spoil it if that's fine. I don't think you're going to want to watch it. It's old.
Whatever.
The way that they explain him becoming invisible is he has a suit. It's a suit.
Like a stealth suit.
It's a stealth suit. And it has cameras and things like that, and it creates a digital image that mimics what's behind him and what's in front of him. So you can't actually see him.
That's lame.
And isn't like weird, wacky chemistry that's turning him insane and messing with his brain chemistry as well as his like
that's
anatomy
actually far more interesting. Yes.
It's so cool. Like, it's so much cooler. And the other thing
I would love to see an updated version of this film. I don't mind remakes, especially if it's been a long time from them, as long as what your purpose is to appreciate the original material rather than trying to like just mess with it. Like if you just updated this a bit with like, it would be really fun. Set it the same time period, set it similar to the situation, and just use our modern technology, just make it look really pretty.
Modern technology is
but
smoother
use
story,
that psychology the same way. And it would just be really good, but I just don't know if you can even beat it. Like it's solid.
I really don't think that
I think just re-release this film in theaters. Just let people watch.
It would work. It would work nowadays.
It actually would work.
Like the difference in like age and things like that really doesn't damage this film at all. This film is timeless.
It works.
It has a very good story and things like that. I mean,
I like it the way it stands, honestly.
And it's a great adaptation of H.G. Wells.
This is like breaks our channel, but like honestly, there are things you could do to fix it, but it's all technical. It's all technical limitations that you'd have to overcome. And had this film been shot for the first time like this year with the same ideas, it would have probably looked absolutely beautiful. But
it would have been breathtaking.
But this movie isn't about the looks; it's about the psychology, and that works no matter what your background stuff is.
Yeah,
and hit the really good effects of the visuals mixed with his psychosis. Perfect.
It's great. Like I said, this film so far has just been the best one that is on.
And some of the other ones got so close to it; they just struggled but you can tell they're learning, and I'm looking forward to see what they do with it with some of the other ones and how they redo. And that might be why they revisit, they do like Bride of Frankenstein, Daughter of Dracula, stuff like that, Son of Dracula. I imagine that a lot of those may have been made, not just to pull off the property, because they also probably wanted to reuse some of the techniques they learned to improve them. I'm hoping that's the case, and I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys have the opportunity, or if you're looking for a good film to watch, I don't know if this is available on streaming or anything like that. We're using I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. We have the 100th anniversary box set of the classic Universal Monster movies on Blu-ray. They're remastered and they're reconfigured and things like that to be put into high definition. They're gorgeous. Like
I do know some of them are available on stream. Like Dracula, you can find online in a lot of places. And Frankenstein, I saw both of those online, so you can get them. And I don't know if it's the original, the updated, but they do exist. But yeah, the box set definitely probably worth a grab if you can find it.
Oh, absolutely. This box set is really worth it. We're really enjoying these films, and of all the films that we watched so far, we just watch Invisible Man. Like, you can take our word for it, or you can watch it yourself. It's a great film. We literally have no real rewrites or anything or to improve on it, because it's just great. I loved this film.
It was just good.
Yep.
All right. Go ahead and close this out, I guess.
All right. So that was The Invisible Man, 1933. We have talked about the good, the bad, the ugly, the iconic. We watched it. We roasted it a little bit. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that section. Let us know how we're doing in the comments. What do you think about the Universal Monster movies so far? What do you think about the things that we've had to say? And what are some things that you would do to improve? Maybe not just The Invisible Man, but just any of the movies so far. Let us know in the comments. We always appreciate your guys' feedback, letting us know how we're doing, things that we can improve on, and things like that. Otherwise, like this video, subscribe to this channel. We really get super excited whenever we get a new person to come to this channel. It's so rewarding to be able to put this stuff out there for you guys. We are really enjoying going through this series. Otherwise, share us with your friends. You can follow us on Facebook at Entertainment Rebooted. We usually give updates on not just like our release schedule, but when we're filming things. We post memes. We talk about just entertainment culture and stuff in general. And we are also now on Twitter at ExpositionSickle. So once again, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thanks for watching.